Good morning, everybody. Another beautiful spring morning here. Still a little chilly, and we have some pilgrims here from different places: Virginia, Georgia, Utah, and some of them got up to see the sunrise. We've got famous lines, proverbial lines from the Book of Wisdom. And for those who just do the Sundays, which is great to do the Sundays, the Book of Wisdom we've been reading for the last maybe 2 weeks almost. I'm not sure, at least a week, and maybe 2 weeks, and there's still more to come as we read the book systematically in ordinary time, which is going to finish on Wednesday with Ash Wednesday. And by the way, just a little practical note regarding that. Ash Wednesday, Lent, there are 2 links for you in the notes. One is for Kathleen's pilgrimage that she's filming. For you, a very special pilgrimage, a very different pilgrimage. So check out the link to see the work she's been doing, actually tomorrow, I think. So I'm sorry if somebody got cut off there. Hopefully you'll be able to jump back. So and then the second one is a journal article for the Magna Journal, which was just published this past week. And there's a link there. I forgot to mention it yesterday or the day before. There's a link there for a little article I wrote about how this coming Lenten period could be different, and maybe this weekend is a good time to check it out and have some thoughts ripening, so that when Ash Wednesday comes along, you won't be wondering starting out from scratch, scratching your head, thinking, what are we going to put together for Lent? Okay, so those are 2 little helps, especially the pilgrimage that Kathleen is doing is very promising. So then we come to the Book of Wisdom, and it's saying how human beings are tested and put through the sieve, or put through the fire. You know, gold 7 times in the fire. In the case today, the example that's used is pottery. When it's put in the kiln, K-I-L-N, in through the fire, and it is formed in the fire. And the human being is expressed in speech, but sometimes speech needs to be tested as well, because we can say a lot of nice stuff, but when push comes to shove, we realize that we got a lot of stuff inside of us that needs a lot of work. It ain't that easy to walk the talk. That's why we're doing a stroll and chat. Stroll and chat, walk and talk, do the walk the talk. It's easy to talk, right? From saying it to doing it, there's a big gap. That's a Spanish expression. There's a big gap between, a big distance, a big space between saying things and saying you do things and doing them. So then it talks also about tribulation being the test of the just person. Because everybody can look pretty good, but when we go through hard times, that's when we can really, will be revealed what we're really about. We had that idea earlier in the Book of Wisdom about friends in times of need. There's many friends when there's bounty and celebration, but when we are in times of grave need, who's going to come and help and clean up the mess, or resolve the problem, or deal with a difficult relationship? especially if people lose their good name. Friends are often very scarce. People don't want to talk to us anymore, don't want to be seen near us because, yeah, that person, there's so many questions, so many issues, so many problems, and people can be ostracized very easily. And that's very tough. I'm not sure if you can give me a little second here. We just have a little glimpse out there for a moment. So the Book of Wisdom identifies our human weakness, and that's important stuff about what you're eating, about your exercise, about your behavior, about symptoms, and you study the problem well. Good, we're back. I'm sorry. I just stopped here and I realized as I was talking away that it had stopped. I see a comment there about Ramadan, which is very good. So I think it started on Friday, and it's a time of fasting, and that coincides with Lent this year. I make a little comment about that in the article in the journal. So it's they say that it's once every 30-something years that this coincidence happens, because Ramadan moves on a plain lunar schedule. It's not tied to Passover. It's independent of that, and it runs. It scans across the whole summer, especially, and into the fall, and here in the spring it's already starting now. Already started. So there's a beautiful expression the Muslims use. I mentioned this in that little journal article. For Ramadan, they say Ramadan Kareem ve Mubarak, or Mubarak, or Mubarak Kareem. So a blessed and generous Ramadan. So it's not just about fasting, it's about doing a lot of good favors and kind deeds to a lot of people around you, especially in the family, and especially people in need around the area, to help them also to celebrate, to be part of the community. And sometimes that's one of the biggest issues we have, is we exclude people, and there's a lot of work to do. So let's go back then to where we were. It is good to give thanks to you, O Lord, because we've received a lot of blessing for the path forward. To have a good analysis from a doctor is very important. I remember the fellow who worked on my back, my hip area, and I was having a real painful situation, not even able to go up the stairs, especially if I was carrying a bag. And I was doing a lot of traveling at the time, promoting the Holy Land in the States and sometimes in Europe. And this guy, first of all, analyzed and understood the problem. He really did. And I learned, actually, when I was getting the treatment, over the months I was getting the treatment, that a lot of people were able to avoid surgery because of his better analysis of the x-rays. He knew, even from people's gait and walking, how they were, what their problem was. I actually witnessed some of that. It was amazing. So still, with a good analysis, it's very important, but the work isn't done yet. And so that's the great glory of the resurrection, the great glory of the sting of death taken out of our lives. So we'll talk more about that today in the homily in 2 hours' time, God willing, at Mass. So that's also posted on the Magdala Facebook and YouTube pages. The soundtrack also, as is the Mass itself. So, and that's covered in the second reading about the resurrection. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? That seems to have been a hymn that the first Christians used to sing. A very interesting fact, and that gets incorporated into the letter of the Corinthians there. And then Jesus says this famous line that we often hear: before you take the splinter out of your brother's eye, take the beam out of your own. And that's a very interesting thing. And many times the defects of others that annoy us so much are actually mirror effects of our own. They mirror our own defects. And that's very helpful. So when we notice defects of the others, obviously we try to shout them down and call them out and tell them they need to change. But maybe we need to hold our breath and say, what does it say about me? Where am I in that spectrum? I see some people are on the spectrum of anger or of grudges or of laziness or of greed, or very self-centered, or don't think about others. But I need to see, where am I on the spectrum? And we know that example is the best teacher. We are creatures who imitate others. I think all the animal kingdom is like that. The little ones learn from the big ones. Maybe there's a child with a lot of difficulties, and the parents say, wow, the Lord has given me this child with these difficulties to teach me some of my problems, my excesses, my overindulgences and stuff I shouldn't be doing, conversations I shouldn't be having, comments I shouldn't be making. And then, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Lots of trees here, but no apples, because they're not apple trees. So there's a lot of food for thought there, talking about apples. How can you say to your brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye? How can you say to your child, let me remove that splinter in my eye? As you puff your cigarettes, you tell the child not to smoke. As you abuse alcohol, you tell the child not to get into addictions. As you complain all the time, how do you expect your child to have great motivation and courage in facing life's difficulties? Complaining doesn't fix anything. It's a very sour type of way to live. But many times parents can also have these difficulties. And in a certain sense, it's a great blessing for us to have people near us with some defects, because it also challenges us to grow in a spirit of service and helpfulness and joy and patience and strength and encouragement to help others. That's a great way to live. What a way to live. What a beautiful way to live. People, I think that's good for today. We'll continue more at Mass in a little less than 2 hours. So, at 8:15, may the Lord bless you. A good tree does not bear rotten fruit. That's another good one. So lots of stuff. A good person out of the store of goodness in his heart produces good. But maybe we all have a little bit of store of potential evil in our hearts. And maybe all the evil people have a store of potential good in their hearts that we need to bring out. I remember my mom celebrating a neighbour of ours, an elderly lady. It was a farm that had joined our farm. And she used to always quote her wisdom. And she said that Anna would say, that she was also called Anna like my mother was. And she'd say how Anna would say that it's so easy to bring the bad out of a person, but it takes a good person to bring the good out of a person. So you notice somebody that you're sharing a lot of life with, and they have some very weak sides or difficult sides or impossible sides. It's a great skill to bring the good out of them. May the Lord bless you as you do that. See you later, alligators. God bless you. Blessed Sunday. Blessed week.